Yeah, she had a slight hamstring problem that she felt. I think it was precautionary that we took her off. I think it was the right thing to do to take her off and not gamble it. I think the signs are really, really positive in the sense of it just being a small issue that we can take care of.
16 minutes. That is how long Denver had a full back line on Friday night. 16 minutes into a road game at San Diego, 4th place in this league, and Ava Gaetino grabbing the back of her leg and then coming off. A center back who'd started 17 of 19 games, gone. And you knew, if you were watching the stream, you knew right away, nobody pulls a center back in the 16th minute because they didn't like the shape. So that's the news, and I wanted to give it to you first because I know it is the thing you most likely want. Slight hamstring, precautionary, signs are really, really positive. I love that Nick is always so honest with us. That was Nick right after the end of the match. And I mean, I believe him, mostly, but slight hamstring is one of those phrases that means nothing, or it could mean 3 weeks. And there's no way to find out exactly what it means for Ava Gaetino until we see her in training this week before they hop on a plane and head out to Portland. I'm going to be watching the availability report on Friday, so be sure that you are following the 5280 Pitch socials to make sure that you know the latest on Ava's injury. And I want you all to understand what they actually lose when Ava Gaetino goes off. It's not just a body. KK and Ava have been the pairing basically all year. 17 starts out of 19. That is a partnership with reps in it. The kind where two center backs stop having to talk about who's covering and just do it. You break that up 16 minutes into a road game and everything behind the ball has to be renegotiated on the fly in an allowed away stadium environment against a team that is 4th in the table. That's what we were all watching in the first half, and that's why the game looked the way it did. But here's the thing that gets me about that 16th minute. Denver were already without Lindsey Heaps on the road at Snapdragon against a team that had not dropped a single home point all season. Sit with that. All year, not one. And then one of our starting center backs comes off. We went down 1-0. The first half was a bit of a mess, and it was very uncharacteristic of the Denver Summit. And Nick said so himself. I'll play it for you. And then they came in after the halftime break, and they got a point. 1 point, first home point San Diego's given up all season. Welcome to 5280 Pitch. I'm Kate Hansen. And if this is your first time here, we talk all things Denver Summit all the time, every week, every Tuesday. And today we're going to be talking about the draw at San Diego, which was good, and some of it was really good. I want to talk a little bit about what wasn't, and I'm not softening any of the shot numbers because they're rough. Abby's 300th save and Portland, which is coming up fast on Saturday night, which I've got one number on Portland that I think changes how you might feel about that game. So let's start with the point. Here's Nick on the result.
I think I'll probably sit in the middle on this one because I think at halftime, although they hadn't had real big chances, maybe the Ludmilla chance, but I think their biggest chances came from our giveaways, which was frustrating. I think they did disorganise a little bit. Giaccoli was coming outside into areas where we'd spoken about, but we just didn't deal with it. I think it's 2 points dropped in the evolution of the team. I think if you ask me in March next year, April next year, are we dropping 2 points here after that second half? I think I'll be really, really disappointed. If we can fix that going into September, we got a real chance of making the playoffs because I thought we had the best chances. Although we didn't play so well in the game in the first half, I thought second half, great reaction, showed fight, showed commitment, showed our real character. But we had the biggest chances in the game. So I think this is one that as we evolve as a team, we have to have the sort of ruthlessness to execute and get 3 points on the road.
So Nick watched the game from 6 feet away. He's in all the trainings. He knows this game better than I do. I was watching it from my laptop at home in Denver. He's the one who does this for a living, but I've listened to what Nick's answer was here a few times now, and I keep landing in the same place. What's he doing here? He's holding them to a standard that they haven't earned yet on purpose. That is what you do in year 1 if you want year 3 to mean anything. But that's a coaching answer. I don't have to give you a coaching answer, so I'm going to give you my answer, because what I saw was a 10th place expansion team walk into a 4th place team's building without Lindsey Heaps. And granted, we've only had a couple games with her, but we were really planning on her being the backbone for a lot of these hard to compete games in the middle of the season here. And she wasn't there. We lost one of our starting center backs, Eva Gaetino, in the 16th minute. We go down at halftime, and we left with a point from a club that haven't given up one at home all season. And I don't feel like that is 2 points dropped. I feel like that is a point earned in about the worst circumstances that you could possibly draw up. Okay, the table is less fun. 24 points, 19 games, 6 wins, 6 draws, and 7 losses. 25 scored, 25 conceded, dead even, which for a first-year club is actually pretty good. We're still 10th. We're 3 back from 8th, 1 back from 9th, and both of those teams have a game in hand. So the gap's bigger than what you see when you pull up the table standings. We have 11 games left. 6 draws in 19. That is the season right there, not the losses, the draws. Almost a third of this season has ended dead even. 3 of the last 6 finished 1-1. Now, I've heard people say that 6 draws is not great. I don't totally buy that. 6 draws means 6 games that they didn't lose. 25 conceded in 19. That's 1.3 a game. That is a real defense. Expansion teams don't usually have one of those in year 1. So the problem isn't that they drew against San Diego. It's what happens in the 15 minutes where a draw could be a win. And that's the finishing, not character. The character of this team, nobody can hold a candle to. This team has goals for excellence. There's a standard of excellence in that locker room that you really don't typically see from year 1 or even year 3 teams. This team is showing up and wants to compete at a high level. The math, though, 11 games, 3 points back, 8th's got a game in hand. So really, you're chasing closer to 6. But over 11 games, that's doable. That's 2 more wins than the team above you gets. And Denver just took 4 points out of 6 against the 3rd and 4th place teams in this league, back to back. What doesn't survive is another run of those 1-1 draws. So I'm happy taking the point, getting on the plane, coming back to Denver, training, fixing, and then going to Portland. And I mean, let's give them credit because a lot went right, and I don't want the shot numbers eating all of it. So let's start in the goal. 10th minute, Melanie Barcenas gets a look, Abby saves it, and that's the 300th regular season save of her NWSL career. She's just the 12th goalkeeper in the history of this league to get there. She finished with 4 saves on the night, so she has 302 now. She's 2 away from 11th all time, which means that she's probably going to be passing somebody on Saturday. And this wasn't just some quiet night where Abby backed into it. She had a lot facing her throughout the night. She had breakaways to deal with in the first half, and Denver honestly was coming apart, and she kept the team together. Going into the weekend, she's top 4 in the league with goals prevented, 6.6, and she led the entire NWSL in recoveries per 90 at 11.4. So that second one's the number that I'd hand anybody who's only looking at the save totals. Recoveries per 90 is a sweeper kept stat. It's often how she comes off her line and kills before it ever turns into a shot. So honestly, nobody in this league does it more than Abby. No one, and she's rocking it. Nick Cushing said a couple weeks ago that they started this season with 2 number 1 keepers on the roster, with PPM and Abby. Now, PPM, we are wishing her the best of luck at Crystal Palace. She is out on loan there. Abby's our number 1, and I think that the locker room, when you hear the locker room and coaching staff talk about Abby, they all have 150% confidence in her. Incredible human, incredible leader, incredible professional, love working with her. And then Nick even tied Abby to the standard. He said, if you want to be a winning team, you have to deliver at the highest level. And Abby is doing that. Like I said, the players love having Abby back in net. And it's allowing them to play a little bit freer as they're finding their footing, trying to generate more goals.
She's literally keeping us in the game and allowing us to still have the confidence to go forward and just keeping the scoreline what it is. Like the little goals that we have against, like we could have way more without Abby in goal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly just what Abby does. And so I'm glad that she was able to showcase again, like everything that she's capable of. And that's Abby right there.
Yeah.
She's one of the best goalkeepers I've ever played with. And you honestly have confidence going into those moments, knowing that she's going to make a save and she's going to change the trajectory of the game and everything. So it gives the rest of the team a lot of energy and a lot of confidence to know that like it's not over, even when it's, like just with the play, like the play's not over because she's gonna make something happen.
One of the best goalkeepers I've ever played with, and that's from somebody who's been around this league for a while. Okay, so in the second half, we have to talk about the second half because the second half was a different team. Down 1 at the break, and Nick was very blunt about why we were disorganized. That's his word, and it showed up on the screen if you were watching the game. We looked disorganized. We looked lost. The possession was grossly in their favor. So in the first half, San Diego had 61% of the possession. Yeah, 61 compared to our 39. They had 4 shots on target compared to our 1. Crushed it in accurate passes, 85% accurate passing. Now in the second half, it was more of a 50-50 game. San Diego had 51% of the possession. Denver had 49. Expected goals, Denver was better than San Diego. We had 0.31 expected goals compared to San Diego's 0.13. Total shots for Denver Summit, 7 touches in the opposition box, 12 big chances, 3 accurate passes, had 79%. So, everything switched in that second half for the Denver Summit. And we saw a very early substitution, probably the earliest substitution from Nick Cushing that we've seen all season, which was a very stark contrast compared to what happened just a week prior against Utah when we saw Tosh Flint come in. But then that was really the only sub until the 90th minute. Anyways, we saw 2 subs come in right after the break. So that was a very early substitution on Nick Cushing's part. We saw Natalie Means come off for MK, and we saw Devin come off for Emma Reagan. What the Denver Summit wanted was a complete next moment mentality. We just heard Nick talk about it in last week's press conference. And so this was a fresh start. Let's start fresh for the second half. And they wanted to come out and be more organized, better pressure on the ball, more together. And there was a real pride in it, pride in grabbing hold of a game that really had gotten away from them. It'd gotten out of hand. So I want to look at what the second half produced because I just said a bunch of numbers, but there was 32 duels won. San Diego won 15. That is a 17-point duel gap in a game Denver spent mostly chasing. 14 tackles to 6, 20 touches in San Diego's box. San Diego had 11 in Denver's. Denver outcreated the 4th place team in the 4th place team's stadium, holding 45% of the ball. Again, that first half crushed us statistically, but we came back that second half. They were more direct, more physical, and they got into dangerous spots 9 more times than the home team did. Yaz, of course, finished with the highest rating on the field. Janine was second. Those two have found some magic together, and I don't want them to lose it anytime soon. But it brings me to the problem. 11 shots, 2 on target. 2. 6 went wide, 3 got blocked. Only 18% of what Denver hit made the goalkeeper work. San Diego took 7 and put 5 on frame. 71%. So there it is. Denver got into better spots more often, but they did less when they got there. So 20 box touches, 3 big chances, 2 shots on target. Coming back to that same old tale as old as time, folks. The finishing problem. It's not new. And here's the season number. 54 big chances created, 17 converted, 31.5%. Before this game, 31.4. After, 31.5. It didn't move. 19 games into a season, a number like that stops being a sample and really starts being a description. So Denver created 54 big chances. If they'd finished them at the rate that Portland finishes theirs, and you'll hear that number in a bit, Denver would have about 28 goals from big chances instead of 17. That's 11 more goals across 19 games. 11 goals is the difference between 10th place and a playoff spot. And I'd argue that this is the difference between a fun first season and a first season people talk about in 5 years. It's not the defense. It's not the midfield. It's 11 goals that nobody has been able to put away. And I could sell you a better version of the one than the one that happened. Denver's expected goals were 0.53. San Diego's were 0.57. Denver's season average is 1.49. So this was a game where Denver made about a third of their normal attacking output. Honestly, both teams were bad. And I'm not going to dress it up as some heist where the numbers say 2 teams couldn't make anything happen. And the players know exactly what it is. Since the restart, back in July, since the June break, Denver have scored 8 goals. And only one of them did not involve Yazmeen Ryan or Janine Sonis. 1.
I think we just need a little bit more composure in the final third. We know as a team that we need more goals and we need to put these away to win games, and that's what's kind of holding us back when we're in front of goal. We just don't really put it away as often as we need to. So I think just having a little bit more composure and confidence in these scenarios would help us going forward.
We need that composure in the final third. That is a diagnosis from inside the locker room. Nobody had to drag it out of them. And here's a number that I've been building to all episode. Janine has 8 goals and 4 assists, 12 goal contributions and 18 appearances, 1,557 minutes. So that is a goal every 195 minutes, a goal contribution every 130. It's pretty awesome. She is a defender. And I want to sit on that because it's gotten normal around here. And it's not normal. Denver's leading scorer defends. That is her actual job. The thing that she gets evaluated on is stopping other people from scoring. And she's leading this club in goals in an expansion year in a league that is deep. Folks, I want you to appreciate our co-captain, Janine Sonis. Go look at the other 15 teams and try and find someone where the leading scorer is a defender. And because you're going to be looking for a while. Janine doesn't have 8 goals because she's greedy. She has 8 goals, 1 because she's really, really good, but because she keeps arriving in the box on set pieces and in transition and finding that nobody else is finishing it. So it's a great story. Love Janine Sonis. Go out, grab her jersey. Colorado native that you should be 110% supporting and following on socials, drinking her new coffee from her new coffee company. Drink the Janine Sonis Kool-Aid because she's rocking it this year. But it's also a warning sign. And I love watching her play, but if she is still leading this team in goals in October, Denver won't be playing in November. Yazmeen Ryan is finding her stride, has 5 goals, 3 assists. The 2 of them together account for 13 goals. And Denver have scored 25 all season. So 52% of this club's offense is coming from 2 players. And one of them's a defender. The last set of goals seems like it's on repeat. Yaz from Janine, Yaz from Janine, Janine herself, Janine against the Thorns, Natalie from Lindsey, Yaz from Janine, Janine again. Those two are finally clicking. And in an expansion team, that's really exciting. And Nick didn't laugh off the connection that these two have.
You know what? I'm sitting with you. I'm asking that question daily because I said to the group, right, without sort of judging us and comparing us to other teams, I think you look at a North Carolina team that they were better than us when they beat us, right? But I don't see a huge gap between us and them in the sense of like ability. What I do see is two players in their front line that are in the top 3-4 goal scorers in the league, which reflects in their league position. And I think, we're relying on the minute our left back and our right winger. And I think, I've said before, if you're a number 10, if you're a number 9, if to be in the top 4, to be in the top 6, you have to have high contributions. And, we are putting that demand and expectation on our players whilst trying to really, help them and support them and challenge them. And I think for us, it's very, very basic. If you contribute, it really helps the team in the league position. And we've got points on the road today. We've got points at home because Yaz and Janine are contributing. And now we need to really step on the gas and get it from others as well.
Nick compares this group to the NC Courage, a team that has beaten us. And he says he doesn't see a big gap in ability. And neither do I. What he sees in North Carolina's front line, who are top scorers in this league. And he says that is what shows up in the table. Then he says Denver are relying on their left back and their right winger. It's kind of what I just spent the last 10 minutes talking about here. That is a head coach naming his roster's central problem out loud. He's not spinning it. He's not deflecting. Nick Cushing is probably one of the most straightforward coaches I've ever had the honor of interviewing on a regular basis. He's just saying it. So which is it? Is it a roster that is struggling in the center, or is it coaching? Because there are two ways to read that answer, and they lead to completely different off seasons. A very short off season, mind you, because we finish up this season middle of November. And then back in January, we're at preseason because our first game is February 11th for the 2027 season. I think that between those two reads, whether it's coaching or roster, we'll read one. Okay, so it's the personnel. Denver built a defense, a great defense. We got an elite goalkeeper, never really landed a striker. They went and got Lindsey Heaps, who is phenomenal on set pieces and can help generate scoring. But right now she's out. But we also have MK, Tosh, and Allie, who got the start against the Wave, which I love seeing Allie play. Again, I said this last week, but the energy and the way that she plays on the field makes me excited every time. She gives this team a spark, even when we don't have the ball. If it's in their end, I feel like, hey, that spark is out there trying to generate something, and I feel like it helps lift the rest of the team. Anyways, they haven't produced at a playoff rate, MK, Tosh, and Allie. Neither has Olivia. But if that's the read, then Kurt Johnson is going to be going shopping this offseason, and that February kickoff looks completely different. Or my other read on this is it's the structure. Denver get into the box more than Portland do, more than a lot of the top of the table teams. And they pass better than some of these top of the table teams. We have 83% compared to, again, Portland, just since I'm going to be talking about them next. I have their numbers up, but they're at 77.2. The Denver Summit get in to good places. They're just not taking good shots once they get there. And if that's the read, the fix isn't going to be a signing. It's what they do in the final third. And that is on the coaching staff. And what do I think? I think it's both. I think Nick's answer told you that he thinks it's both too. He talked about demand and expectation and challenging players. That is the coaching half. He talked about North Carolina's front line. That's the roster half. So he wasn't really picking one thing as being the problem. He was describing the whole thing. And unfortunately, you can't fix a roster this much in August. You can change what a team does in the final third in August. And these final 11 games are going to be a referendum on whether this staff can find one more scorer inside the group that they've already got. Whether it's MK, Olivia, Tosh, Allie, somebody's got to take it. Because the answer keeps being nobody, then every game left is just going to be a coin flip on whether Janine gets on the end of a set piece. So up next, Saturday, Providence Park, 6:45 Denver time. We're not going to have to stream it from computers and stuff this time, folks. We get to watch it on Ion. And it's the first time that Denver has ever played in Portland. And here's the number that I talked about earlier in the episode. I didn't forget. Portland have not lost a home regular season game in 12 straight games. 12 games, 8 wins, 4 draws going back to September of last year. That is a club record for a club with 3 NWSL championships, 2 Shields, and a Challenge Cup. In 2026 alone, they have 6 wins, 3 draws, 0 losses, 9 games, no defeats. So that's the environment that we're walking into. Portland shows up for the Thorns. They consistently fill that stadium, 25K. The Riveters, their supporter group, they get behind in goal. And a home team that hasn't lost in a stadium in 11 months. So it's going to be tough. But let's look at the silver lining. They lost Olivia Moultrie on August 11th. She's out with the ACL, season-ending injury list. She had 5 goals in 16 games, and she was on pace for a career year. That was their engine, and now it's gone. But on Saturday, they went ahead and beat Orlando 2-1 anyway. So the way they did it is what I want you to understand about this Portland Thorns opponent. Portland took 10 shots, 4 on target. Their expected goals were low, like genuinely low. They did get Kaya Hanks back off of the season-ending injury list just 2 days before the Orlando game. So Hanks hadn't played in a competitive match since June 15th of last year. She came on in the 88th minute, and 8 minutes later, she scored a goal to win the game for them. So Portland, they lost their best midfielder for the season and then immediately get a striker back who wins them the game in stoppage time. And honestly, that's the type of thing that will happen for good clubs. So what do Denver need to do in order to win? Who do they need to stop? Well, obviously, we got to stop Colorado's own Sophia Wilson. She has 9 goals this year. It's her first season back since maternity leave. She hit her 50th career NWSL regular season goal back in July. She's the 9th player in the history of this league to get there. 3rd to do it inside 100 games. She's got $1 million contract, and she shows why she's worth every single penny. This is what I think is going to decide this game, this contrast, because Portland have created 47 big chances, and they've converted 24. So they sit at 51.1% on converting those big chances. Denver have created 54, and they've converted 17. 31.5%. So Denver is creating more big chances, but Portland's capitalizing on those. And that can be the whole game right there in those 2 numbers. That is the 11 goals that I was talking about earlier. Nearly the same expected goals. Portland just knows how to put them in. Now, what's actually on the line on Saturday? If Denver get a result in Portland, they've beaten or drawn against the 3rd, 4th, and 4th, because of the table movement, place teams in a 3-week stretch. And they walk into the last 10 games of the season with a real case that they belong in that playoff conversation. If they lose, they're still 10th, they're still chasing, and the 2 teams ahead of them still have a game in hand. So it's not a must win. There's no such thing in August. But it's the kind of game that tells you which version of this team will be showing up in September. But, and this is the part that I hold on to, Denver has already beaten this team. Yes, back July 18th. Remember that scorcher noon game where we were all dying out at Centennial Stadium, which again, props to the team. A lot of changes have happened since that game, but we won. Denver had 18 shots to Portland's 10, 38 touches in the box to 18, and we created 5 big chances. Granted, we missed all 5, but we won anyway. So it's been done this season by this group. The difference is they did it at altitude in our building against a Portland side that had to come up here in the hot heat and breathe. Saturday is the reverse. It's sea level, their crowd, their record. So what do Denver actually need? Abby needs to have another great game. Portland only put 4 on target against Orlando, and the read coming out of that city right now is that they're winning on finishing quality, not on control. And if that's true, Denver are going to get looks. But I want to see somebody other than Janine and Yaz score. I've said it 3 times this episode, and I'll say it again on the next episode if it doesn't happen, because that is the whole thing. If Portland's plan is anything besides stop Janine and Yaz, well, then they haven't watched the tape. And Denver has to be better in the first 15 minutes than they were against San Diego. They went down early on the road, clawed their way back. In Portland, with that crowd against a team that hasn't lost there in 11 months, you don't want to find out what that place sounds like at 2-0. And one more thing that I'm going to be watching is the lineup. Nick's done a phenomenal job of keeping us on our toes every week with who will be in that starting lineup. Nick heavily rotated the lineup going into that Utah game. He stuck with it against San Diego, but then we saw very early substitutions in the second half at San Diego. Now we have a center mid that's still dealing with a day-to-day knee injury, which, again, be sure to follow 5280 Pitch on the socials for all of the news on injuries and who's going to be in or out. Who knows about Ava Gaetino? She might be out week to week, day to day. Who knows? We'll know more after trainings this week. But with her hamstring injury, I expect to see Meg Reed get the start against Portland because she just gave Nick Cushing 74 very solid minutes on the road. Or does Gemma Bonner get a look? Is this the game where we see her take her first game in a Denver Summit uniform? My guess, like I said, is that he goes with the group that got him to this point. But the back line is genuinely the question of the week. I think that Allie Brazier gets another start. I think that Devin Lynch is back on the field again. I think that Natalie Means gets the call up top again. If Lindsey Heaps is not able to play, I see Tosh getting the start over Una. So that's my lineup guess. My prediction on the game, I'm going with another draw. I am going with a 2-2 draw against Portland. I think that walking away with 1 against a very difficult Portland team in their own stadium is a win, and it keeps us in the playoff conversation. Now, if we were to win, that'd be amazing, but my prediction is a draw for this match. You know, Nick said something in the post-game press conference that about the team mentality going into this Portland game. And the whole thing came down to one word: belief. He walked through it. They won at Louisville, Gotham, Houston, drew at Seattle. He said they were under pressure in that first half, down 1, and he told them at the break it was still half a game. That the best teams turn matches around, and that whatever Portland throws at them, whether it's early or late, he wants his team to know that they can flip it. And you know, going into last weekend, Denver's road points against last season's playoff teams were the most in the NWSL. So whatever's wrong with this team, being scared to go out on the road, that's not on the list. 11 games, 3 points out of 8th, 2 teams above them with a game in hand, a defender that is leading the club in goals with 8, 31.5% conversion that hasn't moved in 2 months. Now with 2 of our starters out with injury, and then a very tough game in Portland on Saturday. I have that belief too. I think that they can do this, not because the numbers are kind, because they're not, but because a team that goes to San Diego, loses a starter, goes down at halftime, and leaves with a point, that's not a team that's decided that the season is over. That's not a team that goes down and gives up. All right, that is the show for this week. Be sure to check out the socials. I'm very active on Threads, Instagram, Facebook. That's the place you can find me the most. Or head to 5280pitch.com, sign up for the newsletter, read the blog. And if you want to support the show, the best way that you can do it is by checking out our merch store. We've got awesome things like our best-selling hat. It's got the sweet 5280 on the side. But check out the merch store. That's the best way to show your support. And you can look awesome on the Denver Summit sideline or whatever soccer sideline that you are on. Thank you so much for being here with me every week. Be sure to like the show, leave a review, do all the things, because when you do that, it genuinely helps push the show out into the algorithms so more people can find the show and more people can become fans of women's soccer. So thank you to all of you who are here every single week. Portland, Saturday, 6:45 on Ion. I'll have the recap next week. We'll talk to you soon.